Yo, what's up, guys? The video you've all been waiting for. Is it worth to farm Abyssal Heart or normal and anything? Your Lin isn't max skilled. I would have to fix that. Thanks for letting me know. That's something I have to fix later. But yeah, this team is showcased in another video. It's either the video of tomorrow or yesterday. Don't ask me why, it just depends on which order I upload these videos. But this is a crazy fast team, and yeah, showcase 30 seconds, and it's autoable, and it doesn't fill. So definitely do check out that video if you haven't seen it yet, or if it comes out tomorrow, then you have to subscribe so you know it comes out tomorrow. Either how, the video of today is it worth to farm Abyssal Heart? I made this little program thingy, whatever, of checking the data, of seeing, okay, is it worth to farm certain dungeons? And then it's rocking all of the saying like how many times did I run it and all of the kind of good stuff. Wait, so this is the hard one, this is the B10 one. Okay, so we see a bunch of things. Well, we see the number of runs, we see how much mana they get. Fun fact, let's just compare like A to B. Like, sir, I don't have the most amount of runs in there. I have 622. I can check them on Suare Farm as well, which I will check later if my numbers kind of make sense according to theirs as well. But let's see what we have. So actually you get less mana from Heart. The fuck? Okay, apparently interesting. You also get less crystals and less energy from Heart. Well, that could be random numbers because they're kind of low on the numbers as well. We do see that we get about the same drop rate for runes, slightly more runes on Abyssal Heart rather than B10. And we see that the clear time, while I was rocking it on a very slow clear time, and I also had someone else gather some data for me. Then we can look at the following thing where it becomes interesting. So we have first, the first number is if a rune drops, then it is rare at a 52 rate. And this is the rate for total. So this is the rate, like all of the drops combined, I get blue runes 39% of the time. I kind of wanted that extra data in just to give a little bit more idea behind it. So with this, we can also say, okay, hero runes 42% of the time. I was actually getting closer to 50-ish% runes of hero at some point, but apparently that lowered by a little bit. Interesting part. And we can see here that the legends is a 5.1er. 5.1 is not that much. I made the video before saying like, okay, if we're going to spend 1.25 times as much energy to get all of that kind of stuff in, we do, and the runs are going to be like 3 times as much, while the old teams that we had were all like 1 minute ish, and we came from like a 20-second, 25-second ish. Currently the run that I'm rocking is around, I would say, 38-second average. I think I can make it down to like 35-second average if I optimize it better. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting point. So drop rates for me, what I see is actually, which is funny enough, I only did 271 runs. I do know that previously legendary runes from B12 were 3.2%. In this case, it's 2.5%, which actually means that the B10 drop table is slightly less than the old B12 drop table, from what I see in the data over here, which is not that many numbers, but just with the idea of it. So yeah, the drop rate for legendaries is 5.1 for the amount of data that I have, which is about twice as much over here. And if you check it for all the runes or all the drops combined, it's even more than that. I also checked if I get more innated runes from the Abyssal Heart compared to the normal, because at some point I thought I was getting like innated runes all the time, but that is about the same. It should be around 50. It's like slightly deviated from 50. We do have to say that we have a few extra things because we have the intangible potato runes. These, at some point, I actually had it like closer to 8% drop rate, and since I added in the data from a friend of mine that also added in quite some data for checking, it dropped down to 5%, which is somewhat odd. Like, apparently I got a whole bunch and he didn't get that many of it. Interesting part. Also, an interesting part is it used to be that all of the dungeons were about 20%, except Despair being somewhat lower. And that is kind of what we can see over here. I think there's like a slight deviation on the Blade and the Fatal. It should be all around 20%, and then Despair around 12-ish. That's, or like a little bit more than 12, like 13, 14 or something. That is slightly different as well, whereas apparently Despair is dropped more from this dungeon. which is an interesting take as well. That's definitely something to keep in mind because every dungeon has one rune that's dropped less. That also means that dragons probably drops more fire runes compared to B12 or B10 dropping fire runes. Because the most rare rune apparently has a higher drop table rate in hard, which makes things a lot more interesting. So maybe you're not getting the right quality right away, but if you get more of those specific runes that you want rather than the guard rune, the focus rune, all of that kind of nonsense, that actually makes things not as bad as we thought it was at the first place. Of course, we also have the intangible runes, which you're not going to get any of in beta. I also did a few runs on the normal stage, but the normal stage I saw right away that I called it Blue's Clues, and that means that you're getting a shit ton of blue runes in that. Like, sure, I only did 40 runs, but you're playing Blue's Clues on normal. Sure, normal Abyss is very easy to farm. It's pretty much as hard as the B10 normally is, or slightly more difficult. But the intangible runes, I got 0 in 40 runs. It might be about like probably half the percentage of this, so probably like 2% or 2.5%. I wouldn't recommend to farm normals. That's definitely a thing. But then the question, do I recommend to farm hard or do I recommend to farm B10s? We're not exactly there yet. The thing is, I can see the data from Suare Farm, so this is the part that I didn't make. The only issue with Suare Farm, I can compare the data from B10. However, the data from B10 still has old data in there, and therefore I don't know exactly how much of it percentage still values towards the old stuff. Because you can still see here, there is a drop table of 5-star runes, which are technically not there. Refresh B10 on Suare Farm. Are you sure? Because, okay, wait. Are you from Suare Farm? Wait, do we have Suare Farm in the chat right here? Because they were showing 5-star runes. They were showing 5-star runes. Did they update it? They actually literally just updated. Maybe? Awesome, awesome. Nice that you're checking, man. So yeah, then I can use their data instead of my crappy shit. Amazing. Like it already. So, what can we see over here? Let's actually open both of them next to each other. You still have something like Korean names, but just letting you know, slight bug. No worries. We'll understand. We'll understand. So let's actually, first things first. Let's look at the data of how much HP the boss has from B10s compared to B2s. Well, they just call it B2s. Well, nice. It's actually a lot easier than Abyssal Heart. Abyssal Heart is way too long. I should make like an acronym for that or something. But we're looking at pretty much 2 times the amount of HP. That is a lot more. Strangely enough, the defense is reduced, which is also slightly weird. So that also does mean that they're really forcing you into hitting things with the proportional enemy max HP rather than ignore defense things. We're also going to check that for dragons in a second. Well, let's actually check that for dragons right away because I'm just curious and otherwise I cannot think anymore when I'm curious. Let's see B10s. Okay, we had a 3.6k and then 260 and now we have a, yeah, wow, they actually reduced the defense of the dragon by 1,000. Well, you cannot dot it anymore, and dotting kind of counters out the whole whatever thing, but that's the thing. Yeah, the monsters are same speed, so definitely I will link Suare Farm in the description down below. Guys, check out Suare Farm. It's super useful for all of this kind of stuff, checking multipliers, all of the kind of good stuff. So also checking like what is the resistance you need. So you need this minus 15 and that's the resistance you need. But you can also check it for the Abyss Heart and you only need 35. Which in this one you need at 55. Which is the old B10. So those are pretty interesting things as well, definitely. And yeah, so it definitely is forced on the bosses have a lot more HP, whereas they have a lot less defense. So keep that in mind. Definitely the proportional to enemy max HP dealers, Lins, Sigmaruses, Pheromones, Akamamirs, all of those units. Those are the units you want to use in this stuff. Also saying like, okay, for example, do I want to... I'm using Akamamir in my new team right now. Do I want to Devilmon it? I'm not sure, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. There is a good chance that you're not only going to use it for Giants, you're maybe also using it for SF later, or PC later, or even NB later, because those proportional to enemy max HP damage dealers are definitely the thing for Abyss. Maybe in the other two Abyss dungeons, they kind of they change that altogether. They make SF that you only want to ignore defenses. I don't know, they could change things. Apparently, I don't have the superpower to know things in the future. Sidetracking on a comment that someone made on the previous video. Either out. Let's look actually at the dungeon tables and then the drop rates. And we're just gonna keep it to giants because dragons probably has the same idea on it. So what we can see left is B10, right is a B2, as we call it right now, or Heart 2. Let's just call it B10 and Heart. Okay. So as we can see, all of the drops are pretty much the same. Energy is slightly less. Mana is slightly less or more actually. Okay. Yeah, it's all about pretty much the same. Mystical Scrolls is like 0.1 off, but that's just probably if you get enough data, you'll get there. Okay, then we are going to look at this. So keep in mind, he has way more data points than I do. He has 23k data points or 24k data points in there and about 20k points in the hard one. So this is a lot more data than I have. So this is probably also a lot more closer to the original, like the actual number than what I have. So as we can see, we're only dropping 6-star runes right now. This is actually showing a 3.2, which was the original number that I knew as the drop rates. So the 2.5 that I had with my 270 runs was just slightly unlucky. Okay, we can also look at the one over here, as where we can see we have like the 20%. Actually, Swift is slightly higher dropped and Despair slightly lower. But let's see what we see over here. We can see that Despair is still slightly lower. All of them are slightly lowered and Intangible is at 3.8. 3.8 on Intangible is not that great. That's actually pretty mediocre. Looking on the right side, Legendary Runes of 4.3 is... Wait, let me do the calculation. If we take that 3.2 and we multiply that by the amount of energy that it costs extra to get the run in, we're looking at a 4. So technically, solely for the upgrade of Legendary Runes to Legendary Runes in the drop table, we pretty much are slightly over the edge of the more mana spent, it being worth. And that's kind of sad. So in the end, if you look at just solely these two numbers of the legendary drop rate of a 4.3 compared to a 3.2, which is a 0.9 increase, which is actually a lot lower number than I had. I had 5.1. Like if it's 5.1, it's already a lot better, but I don't know. It's pretty mediocre. And then intangible runes only being 4. So technically you're farming hard for a very mediocre upgrade in legendary runes and intangible runes. That is pretty much the only thing to it. Let's see if the innate for them is about the same. Yeah, it's about 50% innate on the hard stage. So yeah, once again, the question in mind, what is more interesting to farm? What is more important to farm? Well, I would honestly say that I wouldn't call this dungeon useless, especially since I have a team right now that's a lot faster than what I had in mind. Like if you're running this team at, or if you're running this dungeon at 1 minute averages, and you have, let's say, too much crystals and too little time, I would highly recommend you go for B10s. If you cannot clear this dungeon anything close to safe, I would recommend you going B10s. If you are early game and you don't really have anything that you can clear this dungeon with, I recommend going B10s. If you are very late game, you can clear this dungeon in like, let's say, 45 seconds with the video that I also made on the speed team. 45 seconds to a minute, I would recommend you farm the hard one. If you would say, hey, I don't have that many crystals, I am free to play, I don't give a shit if my runs are 2 minutes, as long as I get slightly better money for my, or like rewards for my money, or for my crystals, or whatever you want to call it, you want to farm hard. Because in the end, hard has a slightly better drop table if you don't give a shit about the time investment. So the thing is, the energy investment, you get back. Or you slightly upgrade in a certain way. Wait, do you even? Now to think of it, maybe you even don't. And the part that I'm thinking of right now is, if I get per 10 or per 100 runs 75 energy back, where it costs me 800 energy to get in the 100 times, or I get 73 energy back for 1000 energy. That is a pretty big difference. And I think that difference in there already, same for the crystals, will take you to a legendary drop table rate of equal. So technically, with that in mind, Heart is useless, except for intangible runes, looking at this data. Which I would say, Countess, if you're listening, I would buff this drop table rate. Like, legitimately, if it was me, maybe you think it would be too easy. I will make the legend drop table on this close to like 8%, maybe even 10%. Maybe you would say it would be too easy, but I think the intangible runes at 4%, maybe I think it would be averaging out at 4% at some point. That is fine, but you would really have to up the legendary rates because, yeah, this is just terrible rates actually. And if the trade-off for the energy cost is already not worth it to farm a dungeon that's harder and 3 times slower for most people, 2 to 3 times slower for most people, the answer in the end, which is an answer that I actually didn't think I would give, because I thought at some point throughout the day and yesterday checking all of the data, I thought throughout the day, like, hey, maybe hard is not that bad. I feel like the drop rates are maybe not that bad. There's a few extra things to it. It's probably not that bad at all. But looking at the data right now, it's pretty terrible. Not gonna lie. So yeah, that's my verdict, what it is. And let's say I would, like, unless you have too much time and too little crystals, you farm hard. If you don't, you farm B10s. Like, sure, if you want intangible runes, like the only thing you're farming hard for is intangible runes. They are very low on the drop rate. They are extremely good. Like, the thing about intangible runes is you don't want that, or you don't necessarily need that 30 speed intangible rune. Like, sure, if you get that, it's fucking insane. But if you get an intangible rune, and you would say it rolls 24 crit rate on a slot 3. It could be your Blade rune, it could be your Rage rune, it could be your Fatal rune, it could be your Swift rune. Because of the 24 crit rate slot 3. And that makes it very versatile. It could be literally anything. As long as it rolls high, it could be high in the HP. It could be that then it's your Carnal rune for Violent, or it's your Diana rune for Violent, or it's, name it. It could be, let's say it rolls very high in defense. It could be your Tricaro rune. There's a lot of things to it where your intangible rune could be very good. But to be honest, and thanks for the primer, by the way, what I expected to happen is I would have expected Abyssal Heart to not drop any blue runes. Not any. And if we see here, well, I'm currently, so, okay, that's actually a good thing that I'm still rattling on stuff. I'm just looking at Legendary. Let's look at Hero. What is the improvement for Hero? We're going from a 34.8% towards a 41.9%. That is a decent improvement, where also your blue runes, you're finding the blues clues from 62%, they're lowered down to 53.8%. I feel like it would be fair if blue runes was like 25%. Like, sure, let's not overstack us with legendary runes, but let's at least give us pretty much always, if not always, hero runes on the drop table on this. Because in the end, it's very cool that you made a new dungeon and all. It's very cool that it's difficult and all. But it's simply not rewarding. And any content is as good as it is rewarding. Why does pretty much no end guild in the game care about the inter-server guild battle? It's not rewarding enough. And for that reason, it is, yeah, it's kind of sad. That part is kind of sad, because I think the dungeon, like, legitimately, I would have liked to be saying, like, okay, I'm looking at the data, all of you are, like, just a bunch of, like, people that don't want to do anything new. Hard is the way to go. Hard is, like, way better drop rates in X, Y, Z, blah, 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 and therefore everyone start trying to make your team on hard, start trying to just put in a Leica, make it safe, make it work, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. But the simple answer is no. Actually, if you struggle to a slightest bit with hard mode, just go back to B10. That's the simple answer. What if they go for 9 energy? If they go for 9 energy, it's already a lot better. Like, to be honest, with the drop table as is right now, I think it would pretty much be fair to be 8 energy as well. Because it's that much more difficult. You have that much more chances of failing. And because of that much more chances of wasting your energy as well. So I would, in all honesty, say that it's fair if the hard mode is 8 energy as well. Because in the end, this is the big factor, which if you spend 800 energy to get this amount, whereas like by minimum, by absolute minimum, up this to be equal to the 1.25% extra. So the energy draw, like the energy cashback for 100 runs should by minimum be 91.5. Because otherwise, just on that cashback energy, it's already not worth it. And the same for the crystals. So those kind of things is definitely something that we would have to keep in mind with adding extra dungeons. And maybe, I'm not sure if they have the idea of like, okay, we just give it to them and then we slide tune the numbers up and down, was left, right, I don't know. Or they just give it and they just leave it as is. And then just see if someone is actually making a video and checking the actual numbers. I'm not sure. Well, they know they have me in the community and I'm a numbers guy, so they know I would make this kind of video. So yeah, in the end, hard is too expensive. Like I can talk like 2 hours longer on this video, I'm not going to, but hard is too, like if you do the slightest bit, struggle with hard, don't do it, go B10s. If you have too much crystals, you go B10. If you have too much time and very low crystals, you go hard. As long as you don't fail it, because every time that you fail hard, you waste more time and you waste more energy. What about normal? Oh, let's actually check normal. I haven't checked normal, but I think normal drop rate is probably even worse. Like way worse. So, okay. Intangible runes, 2.5%. Okay, that's a lot higher than I expect, 2.5. But the big issue, once again, is you have a very... Why is normal 4 where... Wait, no way. Okay, we do have a decent amount of data points on this. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. It still costs 10, and because of the 10 cost, it's not worth it. But why is from that upgrade, you upgrade 0.3% on the... no. So yeah, would you farm B10s? No, it's too expensive. That's the only answer I can give. Like, sure, if you really want intangible runes and you cannot farm hard, you could farm normal. You could. But is it worth it? It's very in between. But if it was 9 a run, it would be worth it-ish. But it is 10 a run, so it's definitely not worth it. So yeah, that's pretty much all there is to any of the Abyssal Dungeons. I'll definitely keep farming the Abyssal Dungeons because for me, if you're very end game, it's very hard to get an upgrade. It's insanely hard to get an upgrade. You can farm for months and you don't get an upgrade. You just get runes to similar level. And for me, intangible runes, like even if intangible runes had like a 1% drop rate, that 1% is probably worth it more for me, very far end game, rather than going the old thing. So maybe this dungeon is made just for the people that pretty much have nothing to farm anymore and then they just go for the intangible runes. I don't know. Could be a thing. So, yeah, for short, we can actually check the difference in bio drop rate. That is something that's interesting as well. So if we go for those fire drop rates, does the fire drop rate drop more? So we have fire drop rate. Wait, I thought fire was always less on B10. Did they change that? Because this is the new data, of course, but I used to be... Okay, this is just way too little data points. That doesn't make any sense. But I always thought fire was... Oh, you can check B12. That does make sense, yeah. That's all data. Good point, good point. Okay, slightly less. So we're looking at 15 compared to 17. So that is the old data. 15 compared to 17, whereas Vio is 15. But in the current B10, Vio is pretty much as the rest. What? That's weird. So wait, they buffed Vio runes for that? Interesting. And here we have a legend dropped table rate of 2.8. Okay. And if we go for the hard mode we have a 3.9. That's fucking rockery. But 3.9 and the Vio drop rate is slightly lowered again. Wait. I thought if they kept the same idea of 16. So for intangible runes, you just eat away the Vio drop table rate completely to add in intangible runes. Okay, I guess. So technically B10 is buffed compared to the old B12 to get Vio runes. And in hard, you just nerf it again to add in intangible runes. Eh? Okay, I guess it's an option. It's not how I would do things. Would lower everything from the shitty drops and then add in intangible runes and then keep Vi on the same. That's me. I don't know. But yeah, for dragons, it's definitely seeming B10. So I'll make a B10 speed video instead of a hard video speed. No, we already have those videos. But technically, the B10s are easier to farm as well. So I might go back and create like a speed team on B10s because apparently that's what I'm recommending people to farm. I guess. It seems. But I do say that I do think they're going to up the drop rates because don't tell me that they're going to keep these drop rates that shit. I don't believe that. They already said right away for the evolving thing, like, hey, the evolving thing, we made a mistake. We pretty much like messed up. It's way too expensive. There's a bunch of more things. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the rune improvement, like the rune upping, is going to be lowered in price because it feels pretty expensive. There's just a whole bunch of things pretty expensive right now. Anyway, like, actually, Unicorn says a very good point. So artifact farming right now, yes, please check out my last video on artifact farming. That's pretty much the video where I explain the first skill crit damage. That video also explains why artifact farming is so good right now. Artifact farming right now is insanely good. And especially if you already have crazy good artifacts, oh, you don't have to pretty much. But if you're low on mana, farm artifacts. If you don't have crazy good artifacts already or pretty decent artifacts already, farm artifacts. It's so much easier to farm right now because you instantly see like, hey, this artifact triple rolled in this stat with a pretty high roll. I keep it. This thing went spread through like everything a little bit. It's shit. I sell it. That's the thing. Artifact farming is really, really good right now. And artifact farming, okay, SF is still a very shit dungeon. It's not easy to farm. But PC is a very easy dungeon if you have the proper team for it. So, yeah. Let's see how that goes. I do expect them to up the drop table rates of Heart because Heart just doesn't seem worth it. And that's in the end, that's just sad to see, right? Like, we want to farm the new looking dungeon. We want to farm the highest stuff. We've been playing for like 8-9 years. We want to farm, like, you're not going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to farm like this, the third highest thing because it's just worth more because of like time investment and energy cost and that kind of stuff. And cool that you made a new looking dragon with new counter skills and all, but it's not even worth it. Like, that's just sad, man. I told them the same thing about dimensional hole. Any dimensional or a dimensional rift, whatever it's called, like they added a new dimension and they had like the Darien looking boss and it's all cool and shit and you're probably like, Darien looking boss? I'm like, yeah, that's the thing you never farmed because you're pretty much kept on your artifact ancient grindstones and therefore you never switch to any of the other dungeons. It's just useless to switch. I told them that during the devs talk in Korea at SWC last year. If you create content, make sure that people want to play this and make sure that you're not hard gate kept by whatever to not play this as being like, okay, you cannot get any other grinds or you don't have the space for the grinds, or cool that you get a room but you're never gonna get the grinds until you also farm this more and then you never get that stuff, that kind of stuff. So they are going to do a revamp on Dimensional Hole as well, which they're going to mention in late August. I definitely do hope that they're addressing those kind of things. We shall see. We definitely shall see. So, but I have pretty good hopes, in all honesty, that they would address the drop table rate, even if they up it by like 5%, 5 to 10%. Like, you don't have to overdo it crazy much, but I would say bare minimum, they would have to make they have to improve this for the amount of extra cost that you make in energy. They would have to improve these two. Otherwise, by just this value, it's already pretty much not worth it. But 5 to 10% sounds kind of a lot. Well, I'm not saying like you make a 2.8% into like a 7%. No. You add 10% to a 2.8%. So you're going like, yeah, that's the kind of stuff you added. And to be honest, fuck Blue's Clues, man. Get those, like, if I do Abyssal Heart, I don't want to see Blue's Clues. Blue's Clues are insta sellers. We do not need Blue's Clues. Get, like, to be honest, keep the legend rate the same, but only drop fucking heroes and legends. And then drop like 98% legend. Or 98% legend. That would be crazy. Drop 98% heroes. I don't mind that. Like, to be honest, that legend is rare. Sure, I don't mind. But I don't want to farm a dungeon that's super hard and then get a freaking Blue's Clues. Or you get a bunch of these nonsense that you don't need. Like, you get these, it's like, oh, and then I can craft a rune that's not only blue, but also 5-star. So we're looking for 5-star Blue's Clues. So, yeah. Come to us if you're listening, and I think you want to watch this video, and I think that's, well, you have listened to the community in the past. This is definitely, I hope they listen too, and let's see from there, guys. Thanks for watching. Come to us if you watch it. Thanks for watching as well. I hope it gets improved, and otherwise, well, we just keep on farming, I guess, because that's what we do. Guys, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.